All right, on to part two. Now, the first Descent was an utter, just amazing surprise that I never expected out of that movie. And I just watched that for the first time, and I just watched this one for the first time, The Descent Part 2. Now, The Descent Part 2 to me is not a terrible sequel. I don't think by a long shot. It basically is the same movie again, but it's not a super like it's not an original sequel, really. It's got basically the same premise. It's just this girl going down again, which I think is it gave kind of a dumb reason to why she's going back again. So it's basically the same movie of her going down in the cave with all these people, but I think that the movie, in terms of the performances again, are pretty strong, and in terms of some of the scares, is pretty strong. But as a sequel, I think it's all right. I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's terrible. It's definitely not the first one in any way, shape, or form. But it's all right. It's perfectly fine. Like it's not a sequel that's amazing, but like I said, it's not bad. It's just one that it's kind of lackluster because it's the same story again, and because the reasoning behind how Sarah is brought back down, and it's convenient because it starts. She's out of the cave. A guy finds her. She's taken to the hospital. She's forgotten everything that happened down in the cave. Convenient. And then she has to go down with the authorities, with these new cave people, and with a sheriff. And they go down, and then of course they're caved in. The monsters attack again. She starts to remember it, and that's pretty much it on the story. It's just the exact same story, except for she just forgot and is doing it again with new people that are not developed in any way at all like the first one, where the girls in the first film, all of them were really likable and really entertaining. In this one, all these other characters are not introduced and characterized well like the first one. And that's a shame because the first one, like I said, was fantastic because it gave so much time with those characters before they went in the cave. And before the monsters even showed up, it was intimidating and scary in the cave. And in this movie, these characters go down. They don't get much development. They're just in there. It's more about Sarah seeing this happen again and remembering, but I don't get why she forgot. I guess it's just because she had so much stress, mental stress on her from killing all these creatures, from watching her friends die, that she blanked it out. Which I guess could be a fine explanation, but I just feel like it kind of felt cheap. Just in a way, it felt kind of cheap to me. But and it's basically, like I said, the same thing. The ending is the only thing that's a tiny bit different, but it's the same too. Where like Sarah and Juno are there, but then Juno dies for real this time. For real, she dies. She gets part of her stomach like ripped out, and then by the creatures, and then she dies. And then Sarah is with this last final girl, the other girl. I don't even remember her name. She was kind of forgettable. Where Sarah and this girl, the only ones left who are gonna make it, like the last one. And then Sarah, which this scene I did like, even though it's kind of a shame that she died. But I like the fact that Sarah did sacrifice herself to have that woman go out and survive. Because Sarah, through all this shit, like losing her kid and her husband, and losing all her friends, I could see why she did the sacrifice and did the scream. So the monsters ran right at her. And then the other woman ran out with the exact same shot of the first one, where the hand flies out of the ground. She gets out. She runs into the woods. The only difference is that the woman who survives in this movie stops at the trees and breathes really hard for a second, and then some guy hits her with a shovel and then puts her almost in the hole again where those things are going to eat her. And it didn't give much more of an explanation of what these creatures are, but the guy who hits the woman at the end and leaves her there for the monsters to eat was in the movie earlier and said something about how his family went missing. And I wonder if he's protecting his family. His family might have been those hybrid creatures that became that. I wonder if that's what that is. Like, they became that thing, so he's protecting them. But it just, I don't know, it didn't do much for me because it was basically the same thing. But like I said, the acting is fine. The character Sarah's fine. It just gives some cheap explanation of why she goes back there again and why she forgets everything. And all the other characters are pretty lackluster in this one. But overall, with the performances and some of the terror in the movie, it's not as terrifying as the first one at all. And it's brighter in the cave. It's not dark like the first one. Um, so you see what I'm getting at. I'm just really mixed on it. It's not terrible, but it's not amazing. It's just in a very close, like, middle ground where it's just like, oh, we got good things, we got a lot of bad things. So it's really a mixed bag, and it's one that, I mean, I would watch the first one in a second again, but this one I might. But I feel like I could spend time doing something else because the first one I felt ended on such a fantastic note and just was a fantastic horror movie overall, and this one just pales in comparison to it, but with a couple alright things about it. It makes it stand out, but it's not one that I would necessarily want to rewatch again. So overall, this sequel was fine, but it was just pretty, just okay.